We see these massive corporations in the headlines every single day, and they wield some incredible influence. But what happens when that power gets misused? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly who holds them accountable.
And that's a really big question, right? When a company's actions start to harm investors or creditors or even just the public, it's not the Wild West. There's a whole framework of laws and authorities designed to step in and investigate. So, who are these corporate watchdogs?
So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the why these checks are even needed. Then we'll walk through the first step, that initial inspection. We'll see what triggers a full-blown investigation, meet the, let's call them the special forces of corporate fraud, and finally look at the very real consequences.
All right, so first things first. Why does this entire system even exist? Well, at its heart, it's all about a classic idea, the separation of powers. But for the business world, think about it like this. You've got the shareholders, the actual owners of the company over here. But they aren't the ones running the show day to day. Nope, that's the directors. And that gap, that space between ownership and management, that's where problems can creep in, creating the potential for an abuse of power.
So to keep everyone honest, you've got a few key players. Think of the registrar as the first line of defense, asking for info and checking the books. Then you have the central government, which has the ultimate power to order major investigations and bring in the heavy hitters. And the tribunal can even step in and freeze assets. Each one has a really specific and powerful job.
Okay, so how does this all kick off? Well, you might be picturing a dramatic SWAT-style raid, but that's not how it starts at all. This first stage is much more like a routine corporate health checkup. It's just the system's way of knocking on the door and asking, hey, is everything okay in here? Under Section 206 of the Companies Act, it can be something really simple. The registrar might just be looking at a document the company filed. Or maybe they got a tip-off that raised a red flag. All they do is send a written notice asking for a bit more detail or for a few specific documents. Now, this is important. The registrar can't just go on some wild fishing expedition. They need a concrete reason to dig deeper. The whole thing can only escalate if the company just doesn't respond, or if the info they give is flimsy, or if the documents reveal what the law calls an unsatisfactory state of affairs.
And believe me, ignoring these requests is a bad idea. There are real teeth here. If a company fails to provide the info, they can get hit with a fine of up to 1 lakh rupees, plus more fines for every day they continue to fail. So yeah, these initial requests, they mean business.
Okay, so what happens when that routine checkup finds something, well, not so routine? That's when things escalate. We go from a simple inspection to a full-blown investigation. It's like going from your family doctor to a whole team of specialists.
Right, so a full-blown investigation doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. The central government needs a solid reason to pull the trigger. It could be a really bad report from that first inspection, or maybe the company itself asks for one. It could also be a court order, or simply because the government decides it's in the public's best interest.
And once that call is made, it's official. The central government appoints inspectors whose one job is to dig deep into every part of the company's business and report back what they find. This is where it starts to get really serious.
All right, but what happens when you're dealing with the big stuff, the really complex, messy fraud cases? Well, that's when the government calls in the elite squad. Let's talk about the Serious Fraud Investigation Office, or the SFIO.
The SFIO doesn't get called in for small stuff. This office was created specifically to tackle major, complex fraud. We're talking about the kind of stuff that can shake entire industries, involving the most tangled financial crimes you can imagine.
And this is what makes them so effective. The SFIO isn't just one type of investigator. It's a whole team of different experts, people from banking, forensic auditing, cyber forensics, law, you name it. They're all under one roof, working together to unravel these massive cases.
And this right here, this is what really shows you the difference in firepower. In a normal investigation, other agencies might still be sniffing around. But when the SFIO gets the case, everybody else has to stop, pack up their files, and hand everything over. The SFIO gets exclusive control.
But honestly, this is the part that should really get your attention. The legal weight behind an SFIO case is just immense. The law says these offenses are cognizable, meaning police can arrest someone without a warrant. And on top of that, it makes it incredibly difficult for an accused person to get bail. That tells you just how serious this is.
So, the investigation is done, all the digging is over. Now what? Let's get into the aftermath. We're talking reports, special powers, and the real-world consequences for anybody caught on the wrong side of the law. These investigators have some serious powers, for sure. They can literally walk into a company's office and seize books and papers. But, and this is a big but, it's not a free-for-all. They have to get an order from a special court first, which means there's a judge making sure it's justified.
And they can't just hold on to those records forever. There's a clock ticking. Any books or papers they seize have to be returned within 180 days. This makes sure they get what they need without completely paralyzing the company.
And for the actual people involved, the directors, the officers, who try to get in the way, oh, the personal stakes are massive. We're not just talking about fines. They could face prison time. They're automatically considered to have vacated their office, and they can be disqualified from being a director in any company. It's absolutely career-ending.
So in the end, everything leads to this, a final report. It's all handed over to the central government, and that report becomes the foundation for whatever comes next, which very often includes prosecuting the company and the individuals responsible.
So there you have it. From a simple little question from the registrar all the way up to a full-blown SFIO takedown, we've seen a system with some pretty serious layers designed to hold power accountable. But it does leave us with one last really big question. As the corporate world and the nature of fraud keep getting more and more complex, are these tools really enough to safeguard integrity?